Hi, this is Professor Salazar, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can code in Java and how you can use it to randomize a number. I'm first going to ask the user to enter things like their first and last name, and then I'm going to generate a random number, and then I'm going to display the results, and the results being their first name, their last name, and this number that's been randomized for us. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And right now I'm using an IDE called Visual Studio Code. You're welcome to use any kind of integrated development environment that you would like to use. I just like using Visual Studio Code. So up here on top, I'm going to click New File, and then I'm going to call this file whatever I'd like. I'm going to call it generate random.java and hit Enter. Okay. And you'll notice that it automatically added this public class generate random for me, right? In here, I'm going to type in public static void main, and I'm going to type in string open bracket, close bracket, space args, close parentheses, no semicolon, sorry about that. Then I'm going to open up some more braces, and I'll be ready to code after that. But before I actually do this, I want to make sure that I've imported the things that I need within my code so that it can be compiled correctly and so that it can run correctly. So what I'm going to import is something called scanner. And I'm also going to import something called random. And the scanner is going to be used for input from the user. And the random is going to be used to randomize a number for me. Okay. So I'm going to type in import java.util.scanner. And by the way, the scanner has to be a capital S followed by a semicolon. I'm also going to import java.util.random and use a semicolon as well. Okay. Now, I haven't actually used scanner or random, so you may see them that they're underlined just the way they are right now. But over on line 10, within my brackets, or I'm sorry, within my braces, here is where I'm going to declare some variables. Okay, and I can even write a comment like that. Here's where I'm going to declare some variables that I'm going to use. I'm going to stay away from writing comments for right now, but it's really useful to start commenting throughout your code so that if you need to troubleshoot further, you know where some of your errors may be, or you know how you can troubleshoot further by reading it a lot easier. Okay, you always want to comment throughout your code. Especially if you're working with a team of programmers, or maybe you're working with other people where other people are reading your code, it's going to make it easier if somebody is reading your code and you're commenting throughout your code. Okay. So let me first do this. I'm going to declare a string variable called first name. I'm going to type in a comma because I'm also going to declare a string variable called last name. And I'll add a semicolon at the end. And you'll notice they're underlined right there because I haven't actually used them yet. But I will be using them shortly here. I'm also going to be declaring an integer. And this integer is going to be the random number. All right. So right there, I just created a variable called random number. And I'm declaring it to be an integer value. Okay, it's just going to be a variable. I don't know what that number is just yet, but I'm declaring it within my code so that I can use a variable called random number. Okay, and I'm actually just going to display something to the user by typing in system.out.println. And I'm going to type in this code will generate a random number from 0 to 99, for example. Okay. And then I'm going to type in, I'm going to use a scanner, and I'm going to create a new scanner, and I'm going to call this thing input. Okay. And this is basically going to be used to ask the user to enter their first and last name. So I'm going to type in scanner input equals new scanner, in parentheses, system.in, close parentheses, close, or add a semicolon at the end. And you notice when I did that, it no longer underlined java.util.scanner because now I'm actually using it. It still has the word input underlined and all these other variables that I created underlined because I haven't actually used them just yet. Now, on the next line, what I'm going to do is display something to the user so that they can actually enter their first name. And I'm going to type in system.out.println, or I'll just do system.out.print because I don't want it to skip a line. And I'm going to type in enter your first name. And I'm not sure if anyone else does this, but I kind of do this for organization or for uniformity. Anytime that I type in a message for the user to enter data, I always type in a colon afterward, followed by a space bar, and then I close a double quote. Now, you don't actually have to do that, but what I want is for the cursor to be blinking one space after the colon. If you didn't do this, then the cursor would actually be blinking after the E in name, waiting for the user to enter their first name. I'm doing this just to make everything look nice and neat and uniform. Okay, I want it to look better as far as just viewing this thing, making it look more organized for the user. Okay. So now that I ask the user to enter their first name, here is where I'm actually going to use that variable called first name up on line 10. And I'm going to type in first name equals input dot next line, open parentheses, close parentheses. Okay. And I'm going to add a semicolon at the end as well. You'll notice that after every statement, I'm actually entering a semicolon right there. I believe the only one that I have not entered a semicolon are up on line 6 and line 8, because this is a class, and then this is the main method. Okay. Input is still being underlined. Which tells me that there may be something wrong with line 15. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep on going. And if there's an error, I'll have to fix it later. Okay. But you'll also notice that on line 17, I use this variable called first name, where I declare it in on line 10. Now I used it on line 17. Right here on line 17, I used input, which was this scanner that I imported. And I put dot next line, meaning this is going to be a string that I'm using as input, and I'm inputting it into this variable called first name. Okay. And it may sound a little bit tricky, but this is how you would ask the user to enter their first name. And then you would take that data and plug it into the variable. Okay. So by the way, I'm going to do the same thing for last name. I'm going to type in system.out.print, enter your last name. Okay. Looks almost identical to line 16, except line 16 is asking the user for their first name. Line 18 is asking for the user for their last name. And then on line 19, I'm going to type in last name equals input dot next line. And again, oh, by the way, it underlined last name on line 19 because I didn't capitalize the N. If on line 10, I used a capital N in last name, then I have to do the same thing on line 19. Okay. Now, I have those two variables right there. It's waiting for the user to enter their first name and their last name. Whatever the user enters, it's going to input that into those two variables, first and last name. The next thing that I want to do is I want to generate a random number. Now, I actually don't know how far this is going to go, but I do want it to stop at a certain limit, right? I could ask the user to enter the minimum number and the maximum number, or the low and the high number, or I could just enter a number itself. And if you'll notice, I gave you all an example of this code will generate a random number between 0 and 99. Well, if I wanted to randomize a number between 0 and 99, all I would have to do is plug in a number 100 in parentheses. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. On line 21, I'm going to type in random, rand equals new random, open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon. Okay. Now that's coming from line 4, where I imported random. All right, or java.util.rand. On the next line is where I'm going to use this variable that I created on line 11 called random number. And here's where I'm going to generate this random number, and I'm going to plug it into the value called random number. Okay. So here's random number, and random number equals rand.nextInt. And in parentheses, I'm going to plug in the number 100. Okay. And I'm going to type a semicolon at the end. You'll notice that rand is no longer underlined. Okay. Now, first name, last name, and random number are still underlined. And that's because I haven't actually used them and I haven't plugged in values for those variables just yet. But I will be doing this shortly. The next thing I'm going to do is, now that I have data for my, or let me repeat this. Now that I have values for my variables, which are first name, last name, and random number, at the end is where I'm going to display my data to the user. So in order to display my data to the user, I'm going to type in system.out.println. And in parentheses, I'm just going to display their first and last name. I could say something like this. Hello plus, or I'm sorry, let me do this in double quotes. Hello space plus first name plus the space plus last name. Okay. Close my parentheses and close my semicolon. And then I'm going to do another system.out.println, system.out.println. And here's where I'm going to display the random number to the user. And I'm going to type in your random number that is generated, or that has been generated, is, and now it's actually going to display the random number to the user. I'm going to type in plus random number, close my parentheses and close my semicolon. And I actually don't like that on line 15, it's still underlining input, but I might have to troubleshoot a little further and see why that's so right here. I haven't actually ran my code yet, but usually you'll find that when you're running through some examples in Java or any programming language in particular, you're going to come across errors. And the good thing is to not quit as soon as you see an error message, or, throw your hands up and say, I can't do this. You can always do this. All you have to do is read the error, and all you have to do is troubleshoot as to why you got that error. So yeah, let me go ahead and first compile my code, and then I'm going to run my code. Okay, so to compile it, I'm going to go ahead and save it by doing a Control S, or I could also do File and Save. And here I'm going to compile it by typing in Java C space the name of my file, which is generate random.java. And if it compiles correctly, then you'll see on the upper left-hand side how a class was created. And you'll get like a blue J icon right above your Java file. If this works correctly, then I'll be able to run my code, and it's going to display enter your first name, enter your last name, and it's going to display this random number that was generated. Now let's see if this actually works. I'm going to type in Java generate random. And it says it could not find it. And this is an error that I have because it could not find or load the main class called generate random. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if I can troubleshoot a little bit here. And I'll be right back and see what type of errors I might have gotten. And I'll let you know what I find. Okay, it looks like I figured out where my error is located. And it looks like I forgot to add something after I compiled my code. So let me go back and share my screen and show you what I did to fix this. All right, so normally you don't have to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and just clear this, and I'm going to show you that after you compile your code, and I'm just going to type in Java generate random.java. Notice how it's asking me, this will generate a random number from 0 through 99. Enter your first name. I'm going to enter my first name. And then it says enter your last name. So I'm going to enter my last name, which is Salazar. And now it says, hello, Ramiro Salazar. Your random number that has been generated is 3. So notice how here you can generate any random number from 0 through 99. And if I was to actually compile the code and run it again, it would generate another random number from 0 through 99. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to type in Java C generate random.java. You'll notice that it compiled it. And now I'm going to run it by typing in java./generate random. And it didn't actually like that /. It's actually a backslash instead of a /. So let me try it again. Let me clear this and type in Java C generate random.java. And this is to compile it. And now I'm actually going to run it by typing in java./generate random. And when I actually run it, I'm not compiling it, so I'm not actually using the .java extension at the end. And it still doesn't like that. So let me see what I did to fix that earlier. Oh, it looks like I needed the .java extension at the end in order to run it. So let me do this. Let me clear it. Java C generate random.java. And then I'm going to type in java./generate random.java. And there it is. It's saying this code will generate a random number from 0 through 99. And this is actually what I have highlighted right now, it's actually coming from line 13 right here. What you see on the next line where it says enter your first name, this is coming from line 16. And now when I enter my first name and hit enter, my first name was actually inserted into the variable called first name. So the value of first name now equals my first name. And when it asks me to enter my last name, it's coming from line 18. And when I enter Salazar as my last name, it actually inserted the value of Salazar into the variable called last name on line 19. Then it came down from lines 21 and 22. It generated a random number from 0 through 99. And then it actually displayed it to me down on lines 24 and 25. This is line 24 that's highlighted right now. And then at the bottom, this is line 25. And you'll see that your random number that has been generated is really just a string of characters that was displayed to the user. But when I added it to random number, I actually concatenated this to this sentence. Okay? And every single time you run this, you're going to get a different value. There may be times when you get the same value, but it's not likely that you're actually going to get the same value if you're generating a large enough number. Like let's say, for example, I generated I was trying to randomize a number from 0 through 1,000 or 0 through 10,000. You know, it's going to take a really long time for me to run this code over and over again to generate that same random number over again. But if I do something where the range is really small, like let's say, for example, the range is from 0 through 5 or 0 through 10 or 0 through 15, well, I may actually get that same value come up if I randomize it many times. All right. So that's all I was going to show you today. I'm not actually going to show you anything that's in any book, or I'm not actually going to give you the answers to anything like that, but I wanted to get you started on how you can use Java to display information, how you can ask the user to enter information, and then how you can generate a number and then display that information at the end of this code. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. And thank you for watching this video.